If you were to go back in time 100 years ago, back in 1922, you would find the number one form of entertainment was going to the movies since television hadn't been invented yet. Most people would go at least once a week, sometimes more, including black people. But oftentimes there were limits on where black people could come in theaters. Or they would have to go to separate theaters just to see the same picture. And what they saw on screen often imitated life. Blacks as servants and maids to white people, which they often resented. And black people were often used in comedies, where blacks were often depicted in negative light as being dim-witted or otherwise degrading themselves to entertain mostly white audiences, although they were paid more than the average blacks. And this was exactly the kind of opportunity Miss Hattie McDaniel was looking for when she first came to Los Angeles in 1931. And soon she found roles in movies as playing maids and nannies, which was often demeaning work. But she made the best of it, since she knew that that was the only role the studios would allow blacks to play at that time. And all her hard work paid off when she landed one of the biggest roles of her life in Gone with the Wind, where she would play Mammy, the sassy maid character that she had perfected and played in most of all her movies. Her performance did not go unnoticed, and she would become the first black to win the Academy Award. Unfortunately for Miss McDaniel, most black people did not share her enthusiasm for their film or the award, as they felt it was a highly inaccurate depiction of blacks in slavery. The NAACP denounced the film and demanded better representations on screen for black people. They felt like Miss Hattie McDaniel represented our past. They looked for somebody to represent our future, and they found her in Miss Lena Horne. She started out performing as a chorus girl in the world-famous Cotton Club, and soon became a headliner before moving to Hollywood. And it didn't take long before she landed her very first role in The Bronze Venus, a musical starring an all-star black cast. These were what were known as race movies. Although they were starred, produced, and directed by blacks, they were largely ignored by Hollywood. But she did get noticed by MGM, who would agree to offer her a 7-year multi-film contract. She would insist when she signed her contract that she would not accept any roles as a maid or a servant, and she would bring a sense of style and glamour that had not been seen before in movies with black people. She's probably most known for her 1943 film Stormy Weather, and this would become her signature song that she would sing the most, as it was most highly requested. She was a trailblazer that other black actors that come after her would aspire to become like. By the 1950s, television was booming, and it was replacing the movies as America's next favorite pastime. But the one thing that was missing was blacks. There were no black shows, even fewer black extras or supporting characters. After numerous complaints to the network, this is the show they gave us. It had an all-star black cast, and it became very popular. There was just one problem. These were the original creators of Amos and Andy, who performed their minstrel act voices as Amos and Andy for years on the radio. Only now they were played by real black actors on television, stepping into the same stereotypical roles that white people love laughing at. Our misfortune. And it's because of the show's deep racial undertones that it was shortly canceled by CBS. One of the most notable films of the 1950s was Porgy and Bess, starring Sidney Poitier, and who was becoming a breakout star and a powerful dramatic actor. And in the 1960s would become a very good decade for Mr. Porter. And in 1963, he starred in Lilies of the Field. He plays a carpenter, and while traveling in remote Arizona, he runs across a community of nuns, and reluctantly builds them a chapel, after much persistence.
I made a very vain and selfish prayer. Now he has answered my prayer through you. I done builded you a chapel.
You built me a chapel. couple.
Correction. Thank you.
Correction. Thank you.
That's very nice.
He will receive an award for Best Actor for his performance. And this just seemed like this the start of a very promising career for Mr. Poitier, as he would appear in numerous films in that 60s decade to become one of Hollywood's most acclaimed black actors. Now, by the time of the 1970s, Hollywood was in trouble. People just wasn't going to the theaters anymore. That is until a new genre of black films started hitting the screens in the early 1970s. Sweetback was the first one. It was an independent, low-budget film starring a young Melvin Van Peebles. When his family gets brutalized by some corrupt cops, Sweetback goes looking for revenge. And he does by taking out the man. A term that we're going to use many times in these films, referring to white people. And the film would have a happy ending. He would have to get his own brand of justice and get away at the end. And although it was an independent film and it only took $150,000 to make, it would grow on a gross over $15 million at the box office. Audience was hooked, and it wouldn't take long before more would come out. And when Hollywood found out that these low-budget films make money, they started pumping them out too. Simply repeating the same formula of violence and sex. This is commonly known as black exploitation films. And it didn't always star men. Pam Grier was one of the first real action stars of the black exploitation era. They pretty much followed the same formula as the men, where the woman would be the hero and the avenger. But it wouldn't take long for this genre to pretty much die out. Despite their success, they became highly stereotypical and soon drew a lot of controversy. Although later it would see sort of a comeback with the Quentin Tarantino films, one in particular, Django Unchained. Now in the 70s, television was very, very popular, and one of the main shows was All in the Family. So you're probably thinking, what's this white family television show got to do with black entertainment? Well, let me explain. It was the first show to openly deal with racial stereotypes. The bigoted Archie Bunker, who was not afraid to let people know what he thought about others, and who was very often corrected by his son-in-law, who was more educated than him. It was brought to TV by legendary producer Norman Lear, who had a string of hits during the 70s. Like Sanford and Son, which is a very funny show, and still on today. All in the Family actually had 7 spin-offs. The first one was Maude, the second was Good Times, and the third one was The Jeffersons. But of all these shows, The Jeffersons and Good Times were the one that was most popular. And both are still on the air to this day.